This is how you turn a free collab shoot into a lucrative paid project in just 5 simple steps. I wish I knew this like 5 years ago. And if you implement it, I cannot guarantee, but you will have a much better success rate of like turning these free collabs into paid jobs. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Nash. I'm a professional brand and resort photographer, been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years, and have generated multiple 6 figures doing just that. And I want to help you and teach you how to do it yourself, because I think there's not a whole lot of information out there, and I want to help more creators be able to make a living doing what they like. So let's go ahead and jump in. Step number 1 is you have to get them on a call of some sort. Whether it's Zoom, whether it's a phone call, whether it's Skype, I don't care. Just get them on some sort of call where you can actually talk to them live. When you're on an email, which a lot of people will try to hide behind email because they're like, I'm scared to talk to the client or whatever, you're gonna have to get over that, because when you're on an email, it's, first of all, it's slow. Second of all, a lot of information can kind of get lost because assumptions are being made. It's hard to know tone and context. So when you're negotiating, it's like very difficult. Third reason is it's just much easier to talk to someone when you're talking live. So step number 1, you have to get them on a phone call. And if you're wondering how to do this for a creative business, basically all you do is, once you're doing your original outreach, instead of saying if you're interested, just reply to this or whatever, just say if you're interested, here's a link to my calendar, schedule a time, and let's chat about how we can make this happen for you. Number 2, determine what the problem is the client has that's trying to hire you and why they're trying to hire you. A lot of creatives approach client work as like, hey, I have this solution and I'm going to jam it down your throat and you're going to like it and you're going to want this. And the fact of the matter is, most clients have similar issues, but you have to be willing to hear them and understand what their issue is. Most clients will give you a free collab because they don't think that the value of the problem they're solving is that valuable, okay? If they think it's only a $100 problem that they're solving, then of course they're going to be like, hey, here's a $50 product, go shoot it, and maybe we'll get a return on the investment, because the product probably only costs $50 to produce or less. So it's really not even like that much of a loss for them. But if you can understand the problem that they're trying to solve, and maybe they don't even understand the problem they're trying to solve, but if you can get an idea for like, okay, what are you trying to do here? You're trying to generate more sales, or you're trying to get, an ad creative that you can run on Facebook ads so that you can generate more revenue, or you're trying to get more videos that you can post on your organic that you can test out so that you can be like, okay, this one works the best, and we want to run paid ads on that so that we can, make more sales. Or if it's like, hey, we need a testimonial of somebody like actually showing the product in use, like a UGC kind of thing, so that, we can build brand affinity and build customer success stories or whatever. Understand exactly why they're trying to hire you and what problem they're trying to solve. And you can do that when you're on the phone just by asking them, I know that you're interested in hiring me, just wondering, why were you interested in working with me in the first place? Those are some questions that you can ask and kind of gauge where the client's at. So once you kind of understand the problem that they're trying to solve, and this takes some questioning and some digging down sometimes, but you get to step number 3, which is ask them to assign a price or to assign a value. So if you find out from the client that, hey, like, we want to make more sales, we want to use this for Facebook ads or whatever, say, okay, cool, that's awesome, like, I love that you're doing that, like, that's something that's great, you need new ad creatives, whatever. Just wondering, how are your current ad creatives doing? And if we were to, say, double the efficiency of the ad through the content that I create, how would that look for you in terms of monetary? So like, say right now they have ad creatives that's generating $25,000 of the sales a month, which is not much. And they're like, hey, we need to like make our ads more efficient. We don't want to spend more money. We just want to make them more efficient. So say we double that, and now instead of $25,000, we're generating $50,000 worth of sales a month. That's a 2 times increase on the return on ad spend, which is huge. And they tell you that, right? They'll tell you how much they're currently making, or they'll give you an idea. And you're like, okay, so if we double that, that would look at like $50,000, right? That's the value of what you're asking me to do is to create that for you, right? You'll go back and forth and kind of try to assign the value of what you're producing for them is. If your content isn't directly resulting in dollars, meaning it's not just like a paid ad spend, maybe it's just, organic content that's more consistent. You could be like, okay, so what's your goal here? Maybe it's to get 2,000 followers in the next month or something like that, right? And say your conversion rate on those followers is 1%. So 1% of 2,000 is 20 customers. Take the average order value of what they're trying to sell times 20, and that's how much the value is worth to them. So say they're selling a $100 thing times 20, that's $2,000. And guess what? Now you have assigned the value of what the work is worth to them. Number 4, once they assign the value that your content would bring to them, you can ask them if an investment in your content would make sense for them. So for example, say we take the $50,000 example where, your content's gonna potentially generate $50,000 worth of sales. You can say, okay, so that $50,000 worth of sales that you guys are going to generate, okay, we're going to 2x what you have. Would it make sense for you guys to invest, say, $7,500 in some content to be able to generate that? Because right now what you're doing is you're generating $25,000. If we were to double that and you pay $7,500 for this content that I'm about to create, would that be worth the ROI for you? Chances are it's like a no-brainer. Yes, obviously, like I would pay $7,500 to make $50,000. Like that's just a no-brainer. So that's how you can kind of like determine the value and also just throw in a price. Now, if you're trying to understand like, okay, well, how'd you come up with the $7,500 number? What I like to do is make sure that my clients are getting at least, at the bare minimum, get at least a 2x return on their investment. Now, a lot of times it'll be a lot more than that. In this example, say they're making $50,000, I'll divide that by 5, which means so it'll be a 5 times ROI. And that would put us at like 10,000. Sometimes I'll make it a little less, sometimes a little bit more, just depending on what their margins are and all that kind of stuff. You could pitch $10,000 and then that would be like, hey, if you invest $10,000, you have the opportunity to make 50. Does that make sense? Yes, obviously. Okay, cool. Let's move on. And number 5, and this is one that most people miss, is you have to be able to reverse the risk sometimes. Because some people will be like, okay, cool, I invest $10,000. What happens if I make $0 or it does worse than the current ad that I'm doing? Here's what you can do. You can reverse the risk. So there's no risk to them or very little risk to them. You can say, hey, I understand that you're concerned about that. Here's some case studies that we have generated some better results for. And you can throw some case studies of what you've done in the past. But if you don't have those, what you can do is you can say, you can pay me an upfront fee of say $500, say $1,000. And that's what you're gonna have to pay upfront for the content. Once you run the ads, you are gonna pay me a 30% commission of all the sales generated by your ads. Meaning if you if you make $50,000 off of the ads, I would get 30% of that or $15,000. Now it's less risk for you up front, but it's obviously going to be a more of a cost in the long run because you're going to have to pay that $15,000 or 30% every single month that you're running my ad. And obviously you're going to have a contract to make sure that this is all clean and everything, right? Most clients will be like, wow, it makes much more sense for me to pay $10,000 one time up front and just have access to the content versus paying you the $1,000 upfront, which is cheaper. But like if they're generating the return that they want to return, because you're incentivized to create content that generates that return, as are they, because they want to make more money, right? The more money they make, the more money they have to pay you. You're incentivized to do a better job. They're incentivized to do a better job, but they would rather pay you less money than more money to get the same result, if that makes sense. They'd rather pay $10,000 one time than $15,000 like every single month for every month that they're using your content. So most brands, if they're smart, will be like, hey, I don't want to pay you that recurring commission. Let's just make it easy. Let's just pay you the 10K upfront and we'll do it that way. If a brand doesn't want to do that, maybe they don't have the upfront 10K, they might just pay you the $1,000 and then pay you the 30% commission moving forward. And guess what? Most of the time you come up on top on that too. So all that to say, if you are positioning yourself correctly to the point where you are showing your value, showing the worth of your value and how your content is going to get them to that ultimate goal that they're trying to get to, it's a complete no-brainer for you to either charge that upfront fee or charge that performance fee. And the client will go from giving you a free collab where they don't value your work at all. They're basically saying like your work's not even worth $100, right? To being like, wow, your work is actually worth like $10,000. And that makes complete sense to me. That's how you move someone from free to paid in 5 simple steps. If you like this video, be sure to follow @NashHagen because we're going to be dropping a whole lot of these videos. Thank you guys for watching and I will see you in the next one.